Hello, everybody. Welcome. Happy Monday. I hope everybody's having an amazing start to their week. I am really excited that you're here. If you are not already familiar, we are going to be doing a deep dive into a whole bunch of different topics today, but namely, we are going to talk all about attachment styles and what I think is literally the single most important thing that you can ever do to actually heal your attachment style, to become secure, to change your relationships, and to actually build the best relationships of your life, like to have the relationship that you want. And this isn't just about romantic relationships. This can be your friendships, your family relationship dynamics. This can be your relationship between yourself and your kids, or your relationship between yourself and your parents or siblings, right? Our attachment style ultimately is the relationship we have to ourselves. And if we don't know how to get that part right from the inside out first, then unfortunately all of our relationships will start to suffer, to hurt. So, as you're all tuning in, I'm really excited to be here with you. If you also didn't know, it's Mental Health Month. So I always try to do like an extra, just sort of like free content kind of webinar here during this time, just to give you extra support and tools and resources. And honestly, we are going to dive into what I think is the most important thing you will ever really get good at understanding when it comes to human behavior and psychology and really relationships. I feel like if we don't get this one thing right, then we can have all of the information in the whole wide world. And then we can still just feel like we're going through the same old cycles. You might feel, and let me know, like I want to hear where you're at right now. I'd love to hear from you in the chat. But if you feel like you're stuck in a pattern where no matter how much information you get, you don't actually see change, then this webinar is for you. If you feel like you go through these emotional loops and patterns, and no matter how many books you read, or how much journaling you do, or how much you've been in therapy, you just don't feel like you're getting the results that you want, this is for you. Again, this will be like the thing that changes how you see all of this. And so, what we're going to do today is we're going to talk a little bit about what this really specific thing is. Um, and I'll dive into a really exciting, super helpful tool that's honestly helped me so much on my own journey and that we share all the time with our students at PDS, to help change this one thing. Okay. And we'll talk about too why sometimes a lot of relationship advice makes a lot of logical sense, but then you find yourself failing from actually changing or creating transformation in the patterns of your relationships and what you can do instead. So we'll spend like 30, 40 minutes in here. I'm going to take you through this tool at the end. This is like the special tool that I think will change your life if you really apply it. um, I'll share with you a special gift at the end as well if you stick around. And um, before we even dive into the topic itself, I would love to know. Hi, everybody. Hi, Phil. Hi, Essay and Nipern. Hello. Um, so that's a good joke. I like it. So if you are somebody who is sitting here right now, I want to know from you what your perfect relationship would look like. Like, if you could wave a magic wand in theory and you had this perfect relationship, what would be the things that you would see differently? And I would love to hear. Hi, Patricia. So Essay says, as an avoidant leaning FA, my trust and betrayal issues, yeah, have blown up every single attempt at relationships and it's traumatized me. I'm too scared to date again after I sabotaged something 15 months ago. I hear you. I promise you I've actually been where you've been. Um, and we'll talk about that in a second. I'm going to share why this is relevant. This will actually tie right into your exact experience. Um, Hi there, Scorn Chat. Hello, Sean. Hi. I saw your really sweet comment the other day on YouTube, and thank you for that. So that was really kind. And I always see you in PDS doing the work and showing up. So amazing to see. So if you had a perfect relationship, for anybody who's tuning in right now, what would that look like? What would like your ideal relationship scenario look like? Would you be with a partner who always works through conflict? Would you be somebody who knows how to address different challenges in your life, and really approach them in a healthy way? Would you feel like you are regulated and you are with somebody who's also regulated? You can grow and hash things out, and you feel like your home is peaceful and calm. Would you feel like there's depth of connection and still novelty in the relationship, but you still have that like stability and that trust? What would be some characteristics that you would ideally want to see? Hi, Candace. Welcome. Building slowly over time. FA here, just divorced after 35 years. Ah, well, this will be a really, really powerful tool for you to learn here today. And I'm sorry you're just going through a divorce, and And it can be so tough to go through such a life change. I want to say too, not to go too far off topic, but sometimes when you um go through a divorce, sometimes, there's also an identity crisis that happens, especially after a long time of being in a relationship. So that's always important to note. Breakfast in bed with a smile. That's a good one to start with. Phil, love that. Greetings from Alaska. Hi, Dan. I'd love, yes, to be able to not assume the worst, to be able to calm my fears down in the moment and trust the person I'm dating isn't a monster trying to use me and ruin my life. I hear that. And we're going to talk, I'm going to use your example as an example in a little bit, if that's okay. Because you'll see how this threads all through with usually really big roots back to childhood. You're so welcome, Sean. Thank you. I want someone I can make mistakes with and who can make mistakes with me, and we're still great. I love that. Like that, like baseline of foundational acceptance, right? Like you accept each other. And if something happens, you're willing to like move through those mistakes together and grow through them. That's really beautiful, Patricia. Wouldn't expect any less coming from you. I Empathetic, peaceful, curious, balanced, present, boundaried, 100%. I'm dating a dismissive avoidant. Watch 10 of your videos. Thank you. Yeah, wait till you hear what we're gonna cover today. Like there's gonna be some big pieces in here. You said, and yes, who I am finding apart from myself from the wife role. Exactly. And really going through those changes. So it's good that you're so aware of that too. That's wonderful to hear, Candace. So we have a perfect relationship idea in our mind, hopefully, right? Like this sort of idea of what we would be in an ideal world and with whom, right? And this doesn't just go with romantic relationships. This can be in your dating life if you're just starting to date and you're single. This can be in your friendships, your family relationships. Like what does a good relationship look like? And the reason I start by asking this question before we get into things is that A, most of us don't start there and don't have a modeling for a really good relationship. And so B, we end up being like on autopilot. Because if all you saw was chaos growing up, then that's just what you expect. You don't have like, oh yeah, it should look like this, and this is where I should be moving towards. And, personally, that's where I started. And so, I want to share a little bit about how this sort of bleeds into what I think is the most important thing that you're going to learn here today, which is in childhood, we are all conditioned, okay? And we are conditioned with subconscious patterns of what to expect when it comes to connection and love. So everything is conditioning. Like literally, your life is made up of conditioning more than anything, okay? And we learn in our childhood conditioning what our needs are. We learn what our fears should be in a relationship. We learn what our expectations should look like. We learn what triggers us and how to communicate. And your conditioning is providing the filter that you see the world through. So I always give this analogy to people that I want you to imagine tomorrow you are going through the woods and you see a bear and you run away and the bear's chasing you, you run away, but thank goodness you're free. You get away, you escape, everything's fine. But the next day you have to walk right back through those same woods. What happens? Well, you're like, "Oh my God, where's the bear?" And as soon as you hear like the breeze and the trees moving or anything, you're like, "Oh, the bear," right? Because what we've done is we've had a negative experience, a threatening experience the day before. We store it and we reproject it out back onto everything, right? And it's our nervous system and subconscious mind's way of protecting us, like to be aware. But what happens when there is no bear? What happens when, you are going through an experience in childhood that's unique to your parents? And you're like, "Oh, I saw betrayal in my home, so now I will always be betrayed." Or I saw abandonment at some point. And what we all do all the time is we are constantly going through this bear in the woods metaphor in our own lives, right? We are constantly taking something that impacted us in our own childhood and we are reprojecting it back out onto everything. And I'm curious if you feel comfortable sharing, what was your bear? Do you have the abandoned version of that? Are you always looking for abandonment everywhere you go, always waiting for the other shoe to drop? Are you always looking for betrayal? Maybe it's a little bit of both. Are you always assuming you're going to be trapped and feeling like, oh my gosh, I just can't get my needs met? I'm trapped. I'm helpless. What is your bear in the woods? Like, what version of that is yours? And what's really meaningful to understand is that until we recognize that this is happening, we are usually all replaying our inner world on autopilot. Like you felt abandoned growing up, you felt betrayed, you felt alone or unlovable. You're usually playing that same track over and over again, but we don't realize that it's happening so often because the characters in the story have changed. Okay. So all of this is happening internally. We don't even realize it's happening internally because in childhood it was with your parents, but as an adult, it was with, maybe your boss was causing some of these triggers to come up in you, your current partner, your past couple of exes, and you'll see these same things repeating over and over again, right? Now, this still isn't the one big thing. I'm going to tell you the most important thing that you're going to learn about this in a second. Um, so what we have here is, yeah, betrayed, abandoned, powerless, check, check, check. Yeah, living with a sense of not knowing what's really going on. So maybe the sense of like confusion, feeling the sense of anxiety or worry, this lack of clarity or certainty, right? These needs not being met. So you can see these themes, right? And these themes are usually present in all of our lives in different ways. And thank you for everybody for who shared that. And hi, David. And so what happens is we go through these same old patterns. Now, I had my own version of this, and I'll tell you one story. I try to be pretty mindful of my family's privacy, but I'll tell you one story as a good analogy. Okay, so I grew up in a home where my parents had a tough relationship, a roller coaster relationship, lots of big ups and downs, and a lot of like really good moments and really hard moments, and sort of all over the place. So very typical of like fearful, avoidant upbringing. And I remember being a kid and being about 8 years old, and I came down one morning, and I think it was like a Saturday or Sunday morning, and I had this little nightgown on, and I remember coming down the stairs, and I remember my dad saying, "Okay, I need to talk to you. We need to, sit you down and have a conversation with you." And him and my mom sat me down and they said, "We are getting a divorce." And I remember being so sad. And I cried and I cried. I was like, "Oh my gosh, my family's divorcing. Who will I live with? What happens?" I worried, I worried. And then some time passed, and I would think about it every day, and days passed and nothing happened. And then weeks passed and nothing happened. And then months passed and nothing happened. And after about 3 months, I was like, "Are they divorcing? Where am I living?" I would always wonder. And then another morning, they sat me down. They said, "We're getting a divorce. We're gonna," and I'm sitting there going, like, "You already told me this," but I'm crying again. I'm really upset. I'm very distressed about it. And then again, same thing. Time passes, nothing happens. Still in the home, still seeing the same patterns in the home, all the same types of things. This pattern of them telling me this every 3 or 4 months happened my entire childhood. It happened from about 8 years old when it started until they actually finally did divorce when I was a teenager, 15 years old or so. And I tell you this because this is where it gets really interesting. The first time I'm in a serious relationship, guess what I do? Well, first thing is that I'm also on a roller coaster relationship because that's what I think love is. I think love is fighting, love is arguing. I actually remember having a thought like, "Oh, we haven't really had an argument in like a month. Like something must be wrong. Like we must not care about each other that much anymore." And actually thinking that I should pick an argument. Okay. This is when I was like 19 years old and in my first sort of more serious relationship. And on top of that, and I didn't realize this until way later, um, every 3 or maybe 4 months, guess what I would do? I would say, "I don't think this is working. I think we need to separate. I think we need to be apart from each other." And I would threaten to leave. And I didn't even realize that I was doing this. I didn't even realize I was mirroring back these same patterns of just all of my own conditioning until ultimately I learned about the subconscious mind. And what actually happened is I was in a psychology class one day and somebody said to me, "Oh, your conscious mind cannot outwill or overpower your subconscious mind." And to me, as somebody who was at this precipice in my life of trying to evaluate myself, like, okay, maybe it's a me problem. Maybe all these problems in my life are actually me. Maybe I should be accountable for them. Maybe these big challenges that I'm seeing have more to do with me than I think. And as I was starting to evaluate my life and my own patterns and my own struggles, when I heard somebody say that, I was like, "Oh my gosh, not only can the conscious mind not outwill or overpower the subconscious one." And what that means, by the way, as like a practical example, is here I am sitting every day going, "I want to have a better relationship. I want to stop having these self-sabotaging habits in my life. I want to not struggle so much with like shutting down and pulling away and then feeling anxious and being all over the map as a fearful avoidant," and telling myself consciously. that I wanted to do these things, and then subconsciously just going through the same old patterns over and over again, just doing the same old things one time after another time after another time. So when somebody said that to me, I was like, oh my gosh, that explains everything. That explains all these times I tell myself I'm going to do things and I don't. I go back and do the same things over and over again instead. And on top of that, your subconscious mind is responsible for 95 to 97% of all of your beliefs, thoughts, emotions, actions. Okay. So for those of us who are like, I'm going to consciously will a new habit or a new goal, I'm going to try to do these things. And then you don't follow through or you don't see yourself making those necessary changes. It's not that you're not good enough. It's not that you're weak. It's not that there's something wrong with you. It's that your conditioning is working against you. And we all have it. And until we understand that so much of our lives is literally just our genetics plus our conditioning, until we consciously realize and start evaluating it, that's the first step. But then how do we actually rewire it? And unless you are doing rewiring work, anything you're experiencing right now in your life that you are not happy with, is probably going to keep happening. And if you're seeing that, if you're seeing, oh my gosh, for years I've been saying that I wasn't going to get so anxious and keep calling and texting so much. For years, I wanted to be more vulnerable as a dismissive avoidant, but I just seem to keep staying shut down and stonewalling. For years, I want to get off the roller coaster in my relationships, but I don't. If that's you, if you're seeing that in your life, it's not your fault. Okay. Literally, none of it is your fault, but it is your responsibility. Because until you take responsibility for your own patterns, and it's not to say there aren't other people with other things that they're doing, right? It's not to say that your partner or somebody you're dating doesn't have their own issues or challenges that they might be bringing into the dynamic. That can be true at the same time. Two things can be true. But I say that because when I was like, okay, my patterns are my conditioning, and I need to learn to rewire these things and actually recondition what is not serving me. Until I did that, nothing in my life changed. And when I did, everything in my life changed. And that's so much what I try to share with you here today. So what we're going to do in a few minutes is we're going to get into the first and what I think is one of the most important basic starting tools for how to actually recondition. Okay, how do we actually change these things? Because until we do, we are usually stuck repeating patterns. And one other thing you need to know that will probably blow your mind, which blew my mind when I learned it. One thing that you need to know is that until you do, okay, the other thing that happens, it's absolutely wild, is that your subconscious mind wants to keep those same patterns. So if you grew up and you felt that there was like betrayal or abandonment, your conscious mind says, oh, I don't want anybody like that in my life. I want to have somebody healthy and stable who's going to be there and be honest and trustworthy. Guess what your subconscious mind does? It says, well, this is familiar. People who are betraying and abandoning, this is familiar. And we've been surviving this whole time. So this is safe. So we're going to keep choosing it. And so then you end up in a situation where your conscious mind is like, I want ABC, but then you invest in those same types of people and patterns all the time. And you've probably seen this in your own life. You've probably seen that, like, oh, you dated somebody or maybe archetypes of people a few times that reminded you of your childhood experiences and how you felt. That's because your subconscious mind wants to keep it and keep what's familiar and that's safe, and then you're most likely to survive. And that's really painful because then we go through the same things and we go, why is this happening to me? I'm trying, what's going on? And then we keep feeling let down, right? And so if you're going through that, it's not your fault, right? But it is your responsibility. Same kind of theme. So you get conditioned by what you see in childhood and what your experiences are. It forms this subconscious comfort zone. Your subconscious likes to invest in that same comfort zone and go back towards the same types of people and situations that are going to make you feel that way. But your conscious mind can change it when you know how to rewire it. And that is the beginning of the end of repeating these patterns forever. Okay. And you don't want to look back and be like, oh, my whole life was me repeating my childhood patterns, that the ones specifically that triggered me the most, because it's the bear in the woods. And I keep thinking, oh, the bear's coming, the bear's coming. And then I keep investing in people who are the bear. Okay. And I'm curious how many of you have seen that. I'm sure quite a few of you have literally had that firsthand experience. So Let's see what we have here. I'm going to read some comments and then we're actually going to go into a tool here in a few minutes, because this tool will be literally the foundation of how we can change these things. And I'm actually going to talk about them by attachment style. Okay. So Sam says, "Hi, Sam. As a DA, I've realized as a child, I didn't have modeling for how to express feelings or emotions, nor did I have examples of conflict resolution. I found that this shows up a lot in my relationships." That is a perfect expression, right? This is exactly it. And the craziest part is that we also become the wounded, whoever wounded us. And again, often like everybody's family is doing the best they can with what they know at the time, right? It's not to sit here and like place blame on people or anything like that. This stuff just gets passed down from generation to generation. But like what's really interesting, and you'll see this too, is that because it's so familiar to us, we also become that very same thing to ourselves. So Sam, you didn't get attunement as a child. Was somebody like helping you learn to express feelings and emotions and supporting you in that? And so there was this neglecting of your emotions, right? Which is very common of DA. You see this show up in your relationships, these patterns, but who else neglects your emotions? You do, right? Because it's what we know. For people who have trust wounds, who betrays your trust the most? Sadly, it's often you. You say yes when you mean no, you violate your boundaries to please other people, you manipulate yourself to become what you think people want you to be. And those are all forms of self-betrayal. So it's we have this thread. We get the conditioning, we keep it alive in the relationship to ourselves, and then we choose accordingly because it's what's most familiar, right? And these things need to stop. This is why people go in to counseling or therapy and they're like, "Oh, cool. I know my patterns now." But unless you're targeting the subconscious mind for how to recondition them, it doesn't give you the results. It doesn't deliver for you the changes in your life you want to see. So that's why this is so important. Um, that's a powerful share. Thank you for your vulnerability in there. That was such a great example. Steven says, "Learned so much from you on a video with, yeah, with, I think Mel Robbins, you're saying, I want to ask if DAs have done work with you, um, and you feel like you were significant in others' lives and the breakup didn't end on horrible terms." Oh, I see. So I think you're saying that you were with a DA and um, with a therapist and your DA partner, and the breakup didn't end on horrible terms. What would be the odds that the DA would be open to a relationship again? You know what, Stephen? I would say, the most important thing is that, and we have like guides of how to understand this. I mean, there's so much information. I could do a whole webinar just about this, but generally, what you're looking for is if a relationship separates out and there's a disconnect. Usually, if you go fully no contact for about 6 weeks to 3 months, DAs often try to reach out in some form, usually indirectly, like send a meme or like all your social media posts. And often, if the relationship was pretty good and stable, they will often kind of regret their decision. But this is what's really important is, and this is not by attachment style, this is for anybody of any attachment style. If you're on the receiving end and if you're really willing to invest and ready to show up, we have to make sure the other person is too, right? Because if you're going to do all the work and this person's not really going to show up for much of the work, then you want to be able to be like, okay, how can I vet them? How can I make sure that they're going to be here doing the things with me that we need? And so I will say this now. I was going to share this at the end, but if you ever want to go into PDS, like we have a 14-day free trial right now, and literally you can like cancel both the 14 days. You never get charged any single thing. I would say if you want to go into it, there's 2 courses for you to take, and you can take at least 2 during the 14-day free trial period, like very easily. Like you can take as many as you want, but like it's how many you can take according to your time in 14 days. I would take the roadmap to reconnecting with the DA course, because it talks about like how to vet, how to know what the signals are, but also how to take yourself into consideration in the process. Um, and then the how to repair any relationship course, which is if you do reconnect, then what happens next. And that will give you a really good framework. And they're about 2.5 hours each of just content and like a roadmap and workbooks and exercises. And that will just help you get really clear and also make sure that you're taking yourself into consideration. Because no matter what somebody's attachment style is, sometimes we can fall into the trap of like trying so hard, but each person is 50% responsible for or each person is 100% responsible, excuse me, for their 50% of the relationship. And so you can take 100% accountability for your 50, but we always have to make sure the partner has those green flags that show that they're on the same page to do the same. So great question. David says, yeah, oh my God, this FA cycle pattern is exactly what I've struggled with this week. Exactly. I mean, you'll see it, right? Same repeating themes and forms all, over and over again. And yeah, Essay says, I've heard it said that your trigger isn't your fault, but how you choose to action it is. That one blew me away because it feels like the complete autopilot in the moment. Well, I'm going to argue that saying. The trigger isn't your fault, but how you choose to respond to it is. When you are like in peak conditioning, when you are just really triggered, and let's say for years, let's say as a child, when you would feel trapped, let's say your way of not feeling trapped was to scream, to yell, and maybe you grew up in a household that was very scary and very volatile. And when you would scream and yell and be volatile back, maybe people would back off a little bit. Well, then you get this conditioning that says me being volatile equals safety. That's how I carve out a boundary somehow is with my anger. That's how I push people away. That's the only way I feel safe in this unsafe environment. And so now, fast forward all this time, when something makes you feel trapped and you find yourself lashing out in that same way, again, that's conditioning. That's not really your fault. Like you didn't ask to get that conditioning to begin with. Now, and by the way, this goes back to this idea: the conscious mind can't outwill the subconscious mind. So even in the moment when you're like, wait, I don't want to be like this. I don't want to raise my voice. I don't want to use critical words. But like your subconscious mind is running the show. It's responsible for 95+% of all your beliefs, thoughts, emotions, actions, especially in triggering moments. So that's where my take on this is to be gentle about yourself. Like, hey, if I'm doing things when I'm triggered that I don't like that I do, it's probably because at one point in time that was the only option that helped me. But the real work is in learning to recondition so that when you change those patterns and you're not born with those patterns, they get conditioned into you, you can recondition them. And again, we're going to talk about the one tool that you can use today to start doing that literally you can get started on tonight. Like it can really change your life. So really great share. I see so many questions and shares and all these things coming through here, which are amazing. Hello to everybody. I see so many great shares. But I will just dive in here in 1 second to catch up on some more of them, but I want to make sure we get a chance to really dive into this tool here together. So let's do this. Okay. So what do we know about attachment theory? I'll tell you at a really high level. Okay, attachment theory, you already know because you've been following these channels. It's a study of basically how your childhood conditioning affects your adult relationships. And that's amazing. And that's the original work of John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth. Originally, John Bowlby out of Cambridge University. However, it was incomplete because they shared all this amazing research and information, but they never said, oh, here's how you can recondition your patterns. So there's like, here's the 4 types: the secure, the anxious, the dismissive avoidant, the fearful avoidant, but there was no, and here's the neuroscience of how you change them if you were taught maladaptive patterns. So that's what we focus on. That is like the personal development school. How do you rewire and leverage neuroscience to change things? That's like everything in PDS. Every single course that we have is about the subconscious mind. And this is where subconscious reprogramming comes into play. You can think of subconscious reprogramming as being like a kind of a fancier term for like neuroscience. Like, let's rewire. And so there's some important themes when it comes to rewiring. Okay. And I'm going to share these themes with you in just a second as we get into this tool. But I want to tell you quickly, this tool we run in PDS under our emotional mastery course. 94.6% of people who say that they completed this tool for the period of time that we recommend said that their core wounds went away. Okay. So this was in our surveys of all the students who have been in PDS. So they had to stick to it consistently because there is the one piece here that requires a little bit of work and consistency, but almost a 95% success rate. And when I say core wounds are this. Core wounds are the fear of being abandoned and all the ways that shows up in your life. How many times have you felt the fear of being abandoned and you panic, you get stressed, you get nervous, you find yourself in a position where you're calling or texting or doing things you don't want to do or pushing people away because you think they're going to hurt you uh, fears of rejection, fears of being trapped, fears of being vulnerable and being seen as weak, fears of being criticized and being seen as defective, fears of being betrayed. These types of things, emotionally unsafe, the fear of being unsafe, disrespected. These are our triggers. Okay. So our core wounds are really just our triggers or our relationship baggage. It's your bear in the woods that we talked about earlier. It's the things that you store it as a threat. And then when you go back into a similar situation, you're looking for the bear everywhere. Oh my gosh, the bear was there yesterday. I look everywhere. I was abandoned in my childhood. Oh my gosh, everywhere I'm looking for abandonment. I'm bracing for it. And then again, your subconscious mind is choosing it. So literally, if you do this tool, there's much higher than there's if you really stick to it, right? Because you we could make the argument that maybe people weren't fully consistent when we only got about a 95% success rate, but there's a 95% chance, basically, that you are also going to be able to get rid of your core wounds. So, what is your core wound that's affecting you the most? What is the thing? If you could put it into one word, is it the fear of being abandoned, being lied to, or cheated, or betrayed? Is it the fear of um, being in a position where you feel like you are trapped or you're weak, if you're vulnerable? Like, share what that is. Like, what is that thing that's bothering you here today? And if you put it in the chat in just a minute when we do the tool, I'll give you like specific personal guidance on this, okay, for like how you can really address it. Now, we've had lots of people use this tool. This is the tool that I used to reprogram my core wounds. Okay, it was a really, really big one. Okay, good. So we have betrayal. And so you can pick one or two of these. We have a lot of other core wounds. Some of them are unworthy, unloved. Fear of being alone is a core wound. There's about 18 major ones. Unseen or unheard, feeling constantly misunderstood, a lot of, yeah, seen as too much is definitely a big one that can show up for people. It's usually underneath that. It's kind of like, I'm not good enough, but really powerful share. So keep this down, like whole, yeah, feeling not good enough. Beautiful, April. Um, what if I don't know? What if I cannot identify it? We actually have a whole course just on finding your core wounds, but I'll come back to that. But what you would do is you would look at the times that you feel most triggered. So let's say it's like when somebody doesn't text you back, and you ask yourself, in this situation, what am I afraid will happen, or why is it bad? Okay, so why is it bad that the person's not texting me back, or what am I afraid will happen? Oh, I am going to be abandoned and then I'm going to be alone. So you might have abandoned and alone as core wounds, right? So that's how you'll find out. Good, not seen, not heard, not being enough, invisible. Invisible is often one of the other 18 ones, is I don't matter, or I'm unimportant. That can be a big trigger for a lot of people, if they feel like they're dismissed or kind of not given regard. Unseen, unheard, really common one for people. These are great shares. Abandoned, alone, abandoned, unloved. Hi from Nova Scotia. Okay, beautiful. Exactly. So that's how you'll start to pull up the core wounds. Good job. So if you are ready, well, let me ask you one more question first, because we'll get into this tool in 1 second. It's a 3-step tool with a bonus step. It's not even that hard. But I want to hear from you for a second. What do having these core wounds cost you? Like, what happens when you have these core wounds? What do you see? Do you see that you get really triggered all the time? Maybe it takes time away from your goals or your dreams or the things that you have for the future. Maybe you find that you accidentally sabotage relationships sometimes when these things are up. Maybe it tanks your self-esteem, your self-worth, your ability to do new things or move in a different direction. Yeah, some of these really common ones: wasting my time, betrayed, big core wound essay. Yeah, this is going to be a really big one for you. Generous, generous pinch of abandonment. Great share. Rejection, abandonment. Yeah, it can are the ones for you that are the most common and strongest. Beautiful, Phil. Feeling always one step behind, Sam. Yeah, you can see that for sure. Oh, I'm so happy to hear that, Concan, that we've been helpful for you. That's so sweet. A vicious cycle, Phil. Exactly. Seeing these things repeat themselves, right? So try to take a moment and just notice in your life how these core wounds affect you. Yeah, abandon myself and sabotage. I lose everyone I love. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. I feel like I sabotage. Painful for someone who wants to love me, painful to not trust love, high anxiety, triggered a lot. Mean to people who don't deserve it, but fawning over people who also don't deserve it. That's a great share. Relationships, it cost me relationships. I freeze and can't communicate or set boundaries. Total people pleaser to earn the love. I used to lose days of productivity, stuck in circular thinking anxiety, 100%. So these are powerful shares coming through. Thank you for your vulnerability. So these are the things that usually derail our relationships the most, right? These are the things that we carry them. We don't want to. They derail us. And again, we can know all of this. This can be a helpful first step, but until you rewire it, it is going to forever show up in your life. Okay. So here is our 3-step tool. Okay. And there's a bonus step at the end. I'm going to explain a lot throughout this tool. So this tool is from one of my favorite courses in PDS. Basically, what a collection of all the tools that help me the most. It is called the Emotional Mastery and Belief Reprogramming course. It is about how to reprogram these core triggers. And if you remember at the very start of this webinar, I said, hey, if you see a bear in the woods and you run away, but you go back into the woods the next day, what do? You're like, the bear is coming. And then you project it onto everything. That's what we do with these core wounds. We see them everywhere. We see life through this lens. Now, do you think these core wounds are conscious? Okay. Remember, your conscious mind is like your logical, analytical thinking self. No. These core wounds are not things where your conscious mind, you don't wake up and consciously choose and say, today, I'm going to tell myself 147 times that I'm not good enough and see what happens, right? Nobody's choosing that. So they're not conscious, they're subconscious. These are coming from autopilot thoughts. These have roots in painful experiences you've had in the past, right? So we have to address the subconscious mind to reprogram them. Okay. Now, one other thing you need to know is affirmations will not ever be the way. Okay. Why? Because your conscious mind speaks language, your subconscious mind speaks in emotions and images. Okay. If I say to you right now, whatever you do not think of the pink elephant. What happened? Did you think of a pink elephant? Probably. Because your conscious mind heard language, it heard do not, but your subconscious mind, right? Conscious mind heard do not, but your subconscious mind just flashed an image of a pink elephant before your conscious mind could do anything about it, right? So your core wounds are subconscious. We can't just use affirmations. If you do affirmations, you say, I'm good enough, I'm good enough, I'm good enough. You're speaking to your conscious mind. It's just language. So it never reaches your subconscious, and that's why you feel stuck, right? So the subconscious mind gets reconditioned through emotion and imagery because that's the language that it speaks. I'll tell you more about that in a moment. And repetition, because repetition is what fires and wires the neural networks together. Repetition, emotion, and imagery, when we have these three things together, fire and wire neural pathways. Okay. Yeah, there you go. I've been doing this tool from PDS and I see definite changes. Thanks for sharing that, Nicole. This, if you stick to it, you will see changes if you're just a little bit consistent. Okay. So that's the backstory. So here's the tool. Okay. Get ready because these are your 3 steps. Write them down or keep a mental note. You can come back and watch this. So, step 1 is to find the big core wound you're working on and its opposite. Now, some of you said a few core wounds: not good enough, abandoned, alone, betrayed, disrespected, unloved, unworthy, all these ones that we said: trapped, helpless, powerless, all these ones that we covered. You pick one at a time to do this tool. You can really do 2 at a time after, but we'll come back to that. Um, one at a time and its opposite. Okay. So if I said I would go through your shares from earlier. So for the opposite of betrayed is loyalty or trust. The opposite of abandonment is connection. The opposite of unworthiness is worthy. The opposite of not good enough is good enough. The opposite, what else did you guys share of um, um, being unloved is loved, right? They're pretty straightforward in terms of finding the opposite, but that's step 1. Find your core wound and its opposite. Okay. If you have a core wound and you're not sure, you can always look at antonyms as well, just on like a thesaurus. Okay. So step 1, core wounds and its opposite. Okay. Step 2, and this is where we actually start speaking to the subconscious mind. We need 10 memories of when we actually felt the opposite of the core wound. Okay, so let's just say for ease sake, we're gonna go not good enough to good enough. Okay, we can't just say I'm good enough, I'm good enough, I'm good enough because we're just speaking to our conscious mind. When you come up with specific pieces of memories or evidence that you were good enough, what that actually does is if you look at a memory, all memory in your mind is just a container of emotions and images. Remember what we said that the ingredients were needed to talk to your subconscious mind: emotions and imagery. So, for example, if you say, oh, I was good enough yesterday when I had that hard conversation with my boss, and I felt proud of feeling good enough yesterday, I did that. That was a hard thing to do, and I showed up. When you bring up that memory, if you could watch your mind in slow motion, you see the images of you speaking with your boss and having that conversation. Maybe you were sitting in the boardroom, you see your boss's face in your mind, so you have the imagery And we feel all memories contain our emotions. For example, if I were to say to you, okay, tell me your favorite childhood memory, and you say, oh, I was playing on the playground with my friends. Well, you might smile when you're saying that memory. Or we've all seen people from tell old funny stories from high school and they laugh, right? The memories still contain the emotion. So when we bring up 10 pieces of memory, we basically get 10 pieces of repetition, or we get 10 for the repetition, but 10 pieces of emotions and imagery. So now we're using our conscious mind to not just know that we have these core wounds and this baggage, which, sometimes therapy can tell you or counseling, but to now actually do something about it. Okay. Which is where the change happens, the transformation happens. Unless you're targeting your subconscious mind, transformation is so hard. Okay. It's like you're always going to feel like it's an uphill battle. So we need small pieces of emotion to support the new belief, the opposite of the old one. Okay. So I have connection. The more specific you get, the better. So if it's I am good enough or I am connected, you want to say really specific things. I was good enough when ABC happened specifically. Yesterday, when I was a really good friend to somebody in need, and I felt like I really showed up in a way to give great insider advice. Or, 2 weeks ago when I ABC. Now, here's the trick. Okay. If you are sitting here going, "Oh, I don't have really big ones." It doesn't matter. You don't need to have like this big award to feel good enough. It can be like, I got out of bed at my first alarm this morning when I told myself I was going to. Your subconscious mind doesn't need tons of emotion. It just needs 10. You just need enough repetition and a little bit of emotion. And that's enough to fire and wire a neural pathway. Okay. So I want you to sit down and you can look through different areas of life. You can look through, like, in your career, around finances, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, your physical health and well being, and in relationships. You can look through these different areas of life and be like, where did I show up good enough? Or if it's abandoned, okay, where do I actually have connection in these areas? It doesn't have to be the perfect connection. It just has to be some degree of connection, right? It just has to be something to elicit a little emotional response. Okay. And if it's single, then hey, Elizabeth, then what about in your friendships? You have connection. What about in your co-working relationship? Is there connection? And here's the reason that it is so important to do this, because once you do believe that it's possible, once your subconscious mind believes in this, it will start investing in it. Okay. Because remember, we talked about earlier, subconscious mind wants to maintain its comfort zone. So if you have a wound that says, I'm abandoned, I'm going to be alone, when your conscious mind tries to date or meet people, you're like, oh, they're going to abandon me. And we end up investing in emotionally unavailable people because that's your subconscious comfort zone. It says, oh, this is familiar and thus safe. So we keep choosing it. Or if you feel not good enough, you'll find yourself doing things like, oh, you could take a job or a job interview and you're like, no, no, I'm not good enough. And so we sabotage in advance and then we're back to that same old subconscious comfort zone. So when you change the beliefs, your external world will change accordingly. And it starts from that root. Okay. And so going back to our 3 steps. Okay. Step 1, your core wound and its opposite. We did. Step 2, 10 pieces of evidence to support the new idea. Step 3, you need to record this somewhere. Okay. So this can be like into your phone, record it in your phone and listen back for 21 days. Okay. Why? Because research into neuroplasticity says we need at least 21 days of repetition and emotion for these neural pathways to fire strongly enough that they're likely to stick. Now, your neural pathways are like muscles, okay? They atrophy over time. If you're not working out your bicep muscles, your biceps shrink, right? Same thing. If we stop telling the same old story, I'm not good enough, I'm always abandoned, I'm always betrayed, then those neural networks shrink. And when we start investing in the new idea, I am worthy because, and we have the memory, I'm good enough because, oh yeah, I have these memories. And we're speaking to our subconscious mind. Now we're building a new neural network. And guess what happens? Now that's what your subconscious mind goes out into the world and invests in. It believes that, it shows up for that. That's when your external reality will change. We don't change our external reality by just trying to control everything outside of us. We change our external reality by changing our internal relationship to it first. And that is by far the most efficient way for everything else to change outside of you as a result. And so this is extremely important. And I want to tell you, this tool, okay, when I say 21 days, it's going to take 3 minutes a day to listen back to your pieces of evidence, to see the emotions, or to see the images, to feel the emotions when you're listening, and to try to feel them in your body. And doing that, okay, 3 minutes a day. Some people will be like, oh, it's a lot of work, 21 days. It is always more work not to do the work. It is always more work to just be like, okay, no, 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 let me just keep my not good enough wound alive and see how that affects my life for the next decade. Or let me just keep my fear of abandonment alive and see how that accidentally sabotages my relationships and makes me keep choosing emotionally unavailable people. The 2, 3 minutes a day will absolutely change your life. Now, here's a bonus step. We are most suggestible. In other words, our subconscious mind is most open to reprogramming when we are in an alpha brainwave state. And that means when your brain is producing more alpha brainwaves. These are the brainwaves associated with relaxation. They happen the first hour that you wake up, generally the last hour before you go to bed, after a meditation, things like this. So if you really want to deepen this process, do it in times like this. Listen back first thing in the morning when you first wake up, or at the end of the day before you're going to sleep. Those 2 or 3 minutes a day will change everything that you're doing. Okay. So, what's next? Okay. Well, this is from our course called the Emotional Mastery and Belief Reprogramming course. Okay. And what that course does is you go into this course, it gives you the whole chart of all the 18 core wounds. It helps you figure out exactly which ones you are and then prioritize which ones to reprogram, and gives you the way of setting it up and recording it down and all these things. You can do it from what I just said. But if you want more support, that's there. Then there's all of these other tools in that course for how to rewire your behaviors. The activating strategies and calling too much, ruminating, worrying, the deactivating strategies, the shutting down, stonewalling. It teaches you how to behaviorally reprogram. There's so many different ways. There's another course in PDS called 21 Ways to Reprogram Your Subconscious Mind. There's 21 different tools. This is just my favorite starting one. There's a whole bunch of other ones that you can start like binding together to speed up the process. I mean, there's so many different things that you can do. And what we're sharing here today, because it's Mental Health Month, is a 14-day free trial to all of PDS. So that means you can go in there. I would start, if you want to start rewiring your painful behaviors and baggage and belief systems, go emotional mastery course. And then I would do 21 days to reprogram your subconscious mind. And I'm telling you this right now, literally, if it were me listening, and if I was interested in personal growth, all these different things, go in, just try it out. Like if you cancel before day 14, you never get charged anything. You can download the workbooks, you can download the course materials. Like you can literally go through so much, and it's as many courses as you can get through in 21 days. You can also do, if you're more like relationship focused right now, you could do emotional mastery course and then go into the 6 stages of every attachment style course, because every attachment style has different stages. There's the dating stage, honeymoon, power struggle, stability, commitment, bliss, and there's a roadmap for healing your attachment style at the subconscious level. Everything in PDS is about the subconscious mind. And you can go through that roadmap of everything and get all those tools. So we'll put something right now. I'm going to come back in and answer some of your questions here, but if you are somebody who wants extra support, wants to dive into this, go through the 14-day free trial. We won't do this again till like probably November, if we even do it in November of this year. And so go through, get the chance to do it, test everything out. It's risk-free. If you don't like it or you can't stick to it, you can literally cancel and you'll never get charged a cent. And you can explore everything. And on top of that, every single day in PDS, Monday through Saturday, there's 2 live events. So I do webinars like this, how we're doing here today. I do those 3 days a week inside PDS. And you can come in and ask me questions. We do a lot more open questions in those webinars than here today, because I wanted to like share a tool with you and go through this. But we do tons of questions. You can come live and ask me a question on video, and we do video Q&A on Zoom. And then we have coaches who do webinars 3 days a week. And then we have these smaller peer support groups. So if you're doing the rewiring work, if you're doing the healing your attachment style coursework, every single day you have like multiple events you can choose from in different time zones, different times of the day, to just come in for extra support. There's an amazing community of like-minded people. You get to meet people literally in these events who are doing the same thing, who are interested in relationships, emotional connection, personal growth, like your tribe, like your people. But start with this tool too. Like this is such a great tool. And again, this is in the emotional mastery course. So if you want to learn more about that, if you're on YouTube, you can use the description link below. And if you are on Instagram or Facebook, you can comment gift, and you'll get a free gift sent over. So otherwise, it's the description box below. So you should see a description, like an actual link to join the 14-day free trial right now if you want to. And it has all these tools. And again, if you want to start with your reprogramming more, do emotional mastery course, and then either do the attachment style healing course. It's all about how to heal your attachment style at the subconscious level of mind. Otherwise, you won't see the conditioning change. You'll just have knowledge about your attachment style, and that won't give you results and change your relationships. Or you can also do the 21 days to reprogram your subconscious mind course if you are like me and just love to um, connect to all those different that you're really interested in all the different like rewiring tools and are really into all that. Yeah, it does it a lot better when you first wake up, says Nicole. Exactly. Um, and yeah, so that's all there if you want to dive in. And again, you can get through as many courses as you can do in the 14 days. So you can again comment gift down below if you are on Instagram live right now or Facebook, or you can use a description. Look in the description box below if you're anywhere else, if you're on TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, any of that stuff. So hopefully that shares that makes the tool really clear and like what you can do next if you want to dive deeper. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dive into some of these comments and questions, just so I'm checking in here with all you guys who are live, and I'm excited that you're here. Um, yeah, the little wins really add up. Exactly. And because it's just the repetition and emotion. And then you see yourself differently, which is the coolest part of that. I love that you said that, Concan, because it's like then you start to see like, wait, I am good enough. I can do these things. I am capable. And you'll see your self-esteem go up hand in hand with doing the work. Um, um, I'm not sure how to pronounce this because I think it's a whole bunch of your initials. Sakorbar, I think, says, can we write it down and read it for 21 days, or does it need to be said and listened to out loud? Absolutely, you can write it down and read it for 21 days. The reason I like to get it recorded is because then sometimes if you miss it, you can do it like, while you're brushing your teeth in the morning and just play it. But as long as you can stick to it, pick what you can stick to. When I did a lot of this work on myself, I did a lot of writing it down and rereading it and feeling about it and all those things, but it's going to be what works best for you specifically. Great question. um oh, Mike says all this work doesn't mean anything if you can't even get one match. To be perfectly honest, like I know this sounds funny, but I'll tell you the actual data behind it. So your conscious mind picks up about 40 to 60 bits per second of data, of information. Your subconscious and unconscious collectively pick up to 1 billion bits per second of data. And I am a big believer, because I would see this time and time again in my practice, that if we're somebody, like let's say for example, you're an anxious attachment style, you have abandonment wounds, like why do we see so often anxious attachment styles invest in emotionally unavailable people? Well, because they are emotionally unavailable to themselves because they're busy people pleasing everybody else. And so their subconscious finds that familiar. So when we first meet somebody, we might consciously think that, well, we're taking in all this information. Subconsciously, you're taking in way more information. And so, and it's based on like people's micro expressions, body language, tone of voice. Like 94% of communication is nonverbal. And so we might meet somebody and we might be like, "Oh yeah, oh, butterflies. I like this person." Well, it might be because they mirrored to you that they were emotionally unavailable. They didn't really make that much eye contact. They were short in their answers to you. They made you feel like you had to people please or chase. And we're like, "Whoa," and we feel all this like excitement. When you change your subconscious comfort zone, the people you invest in and how that leads to more dates, more connection, when you change those things at the root first, it changes your external world every single time. And I've seen this tens of thousands of times at this point. Like I would bet my entire life on this at any given moment. This is such a congruent principle without exception. But you do have to do that work part. You do have to do the rewiring part. Because if we just understand it, but we don't rewire it, then again, your subconscious is still running the show and you'll see those same types of dynamics. So, really powerful comment and share there. Yes, hypnotherapy does put you in alpha. Katie, how do we get the 14 days for free? You can click on the link in the description, or if you don't see it because you're on a different social media channel, you can just comment free gift, and we'll send you a link specifically. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, cry. This is opening up a can of worms. I'm crying now thinking of connection. Beautiful. You should feel relief. Like that's such a beautiful share. But I see you already doing the work. You're like, oh, and just so you know, the more specific you get, the more you'll feel it. And when you're starting to feel that like relief, like you're saying, and you're like, oh yeah, because I saw you put the little heart and that's so sweet. As you get the relief, that's where you're like, oh, like I'm starting to really feel this and sink in. Now, the one trick that I just want to let you know is that sometimes when we start to get immediate relief, we fall into a trap and we go, oh, I'm healed. I don't feel alone anymore. Unless you do it for 21 days, the same patterns will come back. So you have to stick to the 21 days. I've had a lot of people be like, but do I have to stick to them if I feel like I don't feel alone anymore or I'm not afraid of abandonment? I feel much better. It's very likely to still creep back in because those neural networks still aren't strong enough. So you've got to do at least that 21 days there. But beautiful. I'm glad that you're already seeing that already. So really, really powerful share. Um, what else do we see here? Yes, you can come back and grab the 14 days for sure. If you've paused, you can go ahead and unpause or email. If anybody has questions, you can email info@personaldevelopmentschool.com and they can get you all set up and organized as well. How do I know exactly what my wounds are so I can focus on them? Magdalena, so great question. We do have a process. It's in the emotional mastery course. The very first exercise is called How to Find Your Core Wounds. And it shows you the 18 major core wounds. And then it helps you go through a 5-step set of questions to discover which ones yours are. At a very high level, this isn't as thorough, but you can look at times that you get triggered on a weekly basis or a daily basis or whenever you're triggered. And you can look at, okay, in that situation when I was feeling triggered, what did I make that mean or what was I afraid will happen? And it will help you see the core wounds. But honestly, the fastest, best way um, ends up being, hey, sit down, just go through that 5-step exercise, how to find a core wound, take the core wounds list. You'll have it all in the emotional mastery course. And again, you can do it fully for free for the 14 days. And so dive in. I would just go to that. I would download the workbook. I would start in the course. And honestly, if you stick to it, it will seriously change everything about your present, your future. And again, literally doing the subconscious mind work is the most important thing that you can do. So really great question. And so, the next sort of themes in here that we'll see, and I'm going to wrap up in just a second because I said, oh, I've been here for 40 minutes and I know we're way over time. But the next themes in here that you'll see are, yeah, a lot of these questions. Hi, Neil. Thank you. Lots of nice comments in here. Thank you so much. And oh, exciting. That's exciting that you're in there already, Mary. Had a great share. And, what you'll see is the more, I'm seeing some of these comments too, like, oh, I feel tired all the time, shutting down. When you're seeing a lot of those themes, sometimes it's because when we have these core wounds too, right? These core wounds create thoughts. So if you have this core wound and you think of it as like a tree trunk and you have this wound, I'm not good enough. Well, then you start having all these thoughts like, oh, I'm not interesting enough or smart enough or funny enough or attractive enough. And so you have all these thoughts that are almost like the tree branches springing off of the core wound. And then how do you feel when you think those things? Well, you feel stressed, you feel anxious, you feel sad, you feel, maybe a sense of worry all the time or despair. And those emotions are made up of neurochemical reactions. So our thoughts and belief systems affect our feelings and thus our neurochemistry. And then that triggers you to go into fight or flight. It then affects your nervous system. So for those of you who are big into nervous system work, we have a really in-depth nervous system course at PDS as well, by the way. Um, with a lot of guidance on how to rewire your nervous system, all these things, you can check that all out. But um, for those of you that are big into nervous system work, you can't just do nervous system work because then you have all these beliefs and thoughts that trigger you. You go into sympathetic nervous system and then you're like, oh, let me re-regulate in parasympathetic. And that's great. It's better than nothing. But if you only do that, you're going to keep having the core wounds and you're just going to be in this state of coping. Like core wounds triggered, oh, do the nervous system exercise. Core wounds triggered, nervous system exercise. How about rewire the core wounds so you don't have to constantly do the nervous system exercise? And that's like where some of these things really start to transform and change things. So in summary, okay, that's your 3-step tool. I think this is the most important place if you want to change anything in your life, especially your relationships, your attachment style, literally being able to dive in and understand your subconscious mind, how it works, how to rewire. That is the only way to truly change your attachment style. If you're not doing that subconscious work, you won't see those results. So, make sure that you keep that in mind in your own healing journey and don't feel, if you've ever felt discouraged, maybe that gives a lot of explanation for things. If you just feel like you're taking in information but not seeing the results, It can be because those things are not targeted, and that's not your fault, right? That's your subconscious just doing the best to protect itself, right? But hopefully, having this awareness will really positively impact you on your journey. And then again, in review, those 3 steps of that tool for auto suggestion: core wound and its opposite, 10 pieces of memory so that we get the emotions and images and we speak to our subconscious mind. Listen back for 21 days. That's where we start to build those neural networks that are strong enough to stick. And ideally, when you're doing it in a more suggestible state where you're producing more alpha brainwaves, the better it works. So that is your tool for today. Those are the learnings. Again, if you want to go much deeper, go into the emotional mastery course or the 21 tools to reprogram your subconscious mind course that will seriously change your life. Or you can dive into the attachment style healing across the 6 stages of relationship. Like, there's so much content. You can go in, navigate in there, see everything on the dashboard, and do as much as you can in 14 days because it's free. And then if you love it, I hope to see you in there. You can join me on webinars. I'm in there 3 days a week, every Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And we sort of do a double one on Saturday. And then you also have attachment coaches, you have smaller group events, all these things to support you in your journey as well. So thank you so much, everybody who tuned in. It was so nice to see some of you and chat and hang out with everybody in here, and so many amazing comments and shares. And I look forward to seeing you hopefully on the other side. And I hope everybody has an amazing rest of their Monday. Bye, everybody. See you soon.